Play along, I'll protect you. A stranger sat on Mafia boss' lap to escape her abusive boyfriend. What happened next was so shocking. The parking lot was nearly empty except for the sound of Naomi's racing heartbeat. She pushed through the back door of the cafe, exhausted from the late shift, her keys clutched in her trembling hand. The dim overhead light flickered as she walked toward her car, her flat work shoes scuffing against the cracked pavement. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now let's continue. Oliver West stood 20 feet away, leaning against her car like he had every right to be there. His brown hair was messy, his brown eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach drop. His face twisted into something between rage and satisfaction. Naomi stopped walking. Her lungs forgot how to work. "You think you can hide from me?" His voice carried across the empty lot, low and dangerous. He pushed off her car and took a step toward her. "I always find you, Naomi. Always." Her throat tightened. She had been so careful. Over a year since she had walked out of his apartment with nothing but a bag of clothes in her life. Over a year of running. She had changed her number twice, deleted all her social media accounts, moved to 3 different apartments across the city, cut ties with every friend who might tell him where she was. But somehow he always found her. The memories crashed over her like a wave, his hands around her throat. His voice telling her she was worthless, the way he isolated her from everyone who cared about her until she believed she had no one else. The months of convincing herself she deserved it, that she was too weak to survive without him. She had escaped, but she had never been free. "Oliver, please." Her voice came out as a whisper, barely audible. "Just let me go. It's over." He took another step closer, then another, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "It's over when I say it's over." Naomi's eyes darted around the parking lot, searching desperately for help, for anyone. The cafe was closed now. The other staff had left through the front entrance an hour ago. The street beyond the lot was dark and quiet. She was alone with him under the weak glow of a single street lamp. The same way she had been alone with him so many nights before, when his anger turned to violence. Panic seized her chest. Her palms were sweating. Her whole body started to shake. Oliver was getting closer, and she had nowhere to run. Her car was behind him. The cafe door had locked automatically when she left. The street was too far. Then she saw it. A black luxury car parked in the far corner of the lot, engine running softly, interior light on. Someone was sitting in the driver's seat. Naomi didn't think. She didn't plan. She just ran. Her feet slapped hard against the pavement as she sprinted toward the car. Behind her, Oliver shouted something, his voice sharp with fury. She heard his heavy footsteps chasing after her, fast and getting faster. She didn't look back. If she looked back, she would freeze. If she froze, he would catch her. Naomi reached the car and yanked open the passenger door. The man inside looked up in shock, his phone still in his hand. He was handsome, maybe early 30s, with black hair and sharp green eyes. He wore an expensive suit even at 11 o'clock at night. "Please," Naomi gasped, climbing into the car without invitation. Her voice broke. "Please help me. My ex, he's dangerous. Please, just, please." The man's eyes went from confused to alert in an instant. He looked past her and saw Oliver approaching fast, saw the fury carved into every line of his face, and seemed to understand everything in a heartbeat. "Come here," he said calmly, setting his phone down in the center console. His voice was steady, commanding, like he dealt with emergencies every day. He reached for her, guiding her with firm but gentle hands. "Play along, I'll protect you." Naomi's whole body was trembling as he pulled her onto his lap. She settled against him sideways, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. His arms came around her, strong and steady. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and clean. Feel the smooth fabric of his suit jacket under her fingers. This stranger was holding her like she was precious, like she mattered. Oliver reached the car, breathing hard from the sprint. He bent down to look through the open door, his face red with rage. His eyes locked on Naomi with possessive fury. "Get out of that car, Naomi, now!" "I think you have the wrong person," the man said. His voice was still calm, but it carried an edge of steel that made even Naomi's fear quiet for a moment. His arm tightened protectively around her waist. "This is my girlfriend, and you're interrupting our evening." "That's not your girlfriend," Oliver snarled. "That's my—" "I don't care what you think she is," the man interrupted. His tone dropped lower, more dangerous. "What I see is a woman who clearly wants nothing to do with you, so I suggest you leave before I call the police." Oliver's hands clenched into fists. For a moment, Naomi thought he might try to drag her out of the car. He had done it before, pulled her out of a taxi once when she tried to leave him, dragged her back into his apartment while the driver did nothing. Naomi flinched instinctively, ducking her head against the stranger's shoulder. She felt him notice her reaction, felt his whole body tense with understanding. "You have 3 seconds to step away from this car," the man said. His voice was quiet now, but somehow more threatening than if he had shouted. 1. "This isn't over, Naomi," Oliver said. But there was something in the stranger's eyes that must have made him hesitate. Something that warned him this was different. 2. Oliver's jaw worked. He pointed at Naomi, his fingers shaking with rage. "I'll find you again. You can't hide forever." The man reached across Naomi and pulled the car door shut with a solid thunk. He locked it with one smooth motion, keeping his other arm tight around her. "Actually," he said through the closed door, his green eyes hard as glass, "I think you'll find that she can. And if you come near her again, you'll have more to worry about than just the police." His hand moved to the inside of his jacket, a casual gesture that made Oliver's eyes widen. Naomi didn't see what he was indicating, but Oliver clearly did. He stepped back quickly. The man put the car in gear with his free hand, his other arm still around Naomi. He drove forward slowly, forcing Oliver to move out of the way or get hit. Oliver jumped to the side, still shouting threats, but his voice faded as the car pulled out of the parking lot and onto the street. Naomi couldn't stop shaking. Great, violent tremors ran through her whole body. She was sitting on a stranger's lap, in a stranger's car, driving away from the cafe where she worked. She didn't even know his name, but for the first time in over a year, she felt safe. The man drove several blocks before he spoke again. His voice was gentler now, the steel gone from it. "Are you hurt?" Naomi shook her head. She tried to speak, but her throat was too tight. Tears started streaming down her face, hot and unstoppable. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You're safe now. He's gone." He turned into a well-lit parking lot outside a 24-hour diner and put the car in park. Only then did his arms loosen around her. "Can you move to the passenger seat?" he asked. "You'll be more comfortable." Naomi nodded and shifted off his lap, sliding into the passenger seat. Her legs felt weak, boneless. She pulled her knees up to her chest and wrapped her arms around them, trying to make herself small. The man reached into the back seat and pulled out a bottle of water. He opened it and handed it to her. "Here, take your time." Naomi took the bottle with shaking hands and sipped the water. It was cold and clean, and it helped settle her stomach a little. She looked at the man properly for the first time. He was watching her with concern in his green eyes. His black hair was neatly styled. His suit probably cost more than 3 months of her rent. Everything about him spoke of money and power, from his luxury car to the expensive watch on his wrist. "Who are you?" she whispered. "Joshua Collins," he said. He didn't offer his hand to shake, probably sensing she couldn't handle being touched right now. "I own the Grandview Hotel downtown. I was waiting for a business associate when you arrived." Naomi knew the Grandview. Everyone in the city knew it. It was one of the most expensive hotels around, part of a whole chain of luxury properties. "I'm Naomi," she said. "Naomi Smith." "Naomi," he repeated, like he was committing it to memory. "That man, your ex. How long has he been following you?" The question was direct but not unkind. Naomi found herself answering. "Over a year, since I left him." Her voice cracked. "I've moved 3 times, changed my number. I thought maybe he'd finally stopped looking. But he always finds me. Always." Joshua was quiet for a moment, his jaw tight. Then he asked, "Where do you live?" Naomi gave him the address of her current apartment, a tiny studio in a neighborhood she could barely afford. "Do you feel safe going home tonight?" he asked. "Does he know where you live?" "I don't know," Naomi admitted. The fear was creeping back in now, cold and suffocating. "He found me at work. He might know where I live too." Joshua nodded slowly, like he was making a decision. "I have a proposition for you," he said. "And I know this is going to sound strange given that we just met, but I want you to hear me out." Naomi looked at him, her black eyes wide and uncertain. "I can offer you a job," Joshua said, "at one of my restaurants in the Grandview Hotel. I can also offer you a secured apartment in a building I own. Top-level security, cameras, guards, controlled access, somewhere he can't get to you." Naomi stared at him. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because you need help," Joshua said simply, "and I can provide it." He paused, then added, "No strings attached, just a job and a safe place to live. You can say no. I'll drive you home right now if that's what you want, but I think you deserve better than spending the rest of your life looking over your shoulder." Naomi's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. Men like Joshua Collins didn't help women like her. There had to be a catch. There was always a catch. But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see calculation or manipulation. She saw something genuine. "Can I?" She swallowed hard. "Can I think about it?" "Of course," Joshua said. He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and handed it to her. "My personal number is on there. Call me anytime, day or night. If he shows up, if you need anything, just call." Naomi took the card with trembling fingers. The paper was thick and expensive, embossed with gold lettering. "Do you want me to take you home?" Joshua asked gently. Naomi nodded. She gave him directions, and he drove through the quiet city streets. When they pulled up outside her building, he looked at the worn exterior and the broken lock on the front door. His expression tightened. "I'll wait until you're inside," he said. Naomi got out of the car on shaking legs. She looked back at him through the open door. "Thank you," she said. For everything." "You don't have to thank me," Joshua said. "Just stay safe. And think about my offer." Naomi closed the door and walked to her building. She could feel his eyes on her back, protective and watchful. When she reached her apartment and turned on the lights, she went to the window and looked down. His car was still there, waiting. Only when she waved did he finally drive away. Naomi stood in her tiny apartment, looking down at the business card in her hand. Joshua Collins. A stranger who had protected her when she had nowhere else to turn. A man offering her something she thought was impossible. A way out. She thought about Oliver's face in the parking lot, his promise that he would find her again, the cold certainty that he was telling the truth. Then she thought about Joshua's calm voice, the way his arms had felt around her, safe and solid, the genuine concern in his green eyes. Naomi looked around her apartment, the locks she had installed herself that wouldn't stop anyone determined to get in, the windows she never opened, the constant fear that poisoned every moment of her life. She pulled out her phone and looked at the business card again. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to accept help. Maybe it was time for a second chance. Naomi saved Joshua's number in her phone and set the card on her nightstand. Tomorrow, she would call him. Tonight, for the first time in longer than she could remember, she fell asleep without crying. Naomi stared at her phone for 20 minutes before she found the courage to make the call. Morning sunlight streamed through her apartment window, highlighting the cracks in the walls and the water stain on the ceiling she had stopped noticing months ago. She had barely slept. Every sound in the building made her jump, convinced it was Oliver coming to find her. She looked at Joshua Collins' business card again, running her thumb over the embossed lettering. This was insane. She knew it was insane. Accepting help from a complete stranger, a wealthy man she had met under the worst possible circumstances. But what other choice did she have? Her hands shook as she dialed the number. It rang twice before his voice came through, calm and professional. Joshua Collins. Mr. Collins? Naomi's voice was barely above a whisper. This is Naomi Smith. From last night. His tone changed immediately, becoming warmer. Naomi, I'm glad you called. Are you all right? Yes, I'm okay. She took a breath. I've been thinking about your offer. Is it still available? Absolutely, he said without hesitation. Are you free this morning? I'd like to show you the hotel and the apartment. You should see what you're agreeing to before you make a final decision. Naomi looked around her tiny studio. I can be ready in an hour. Perfect. I'll pick you up. She gave him her address again, then hung up and rushed to get ready. She showered quickly, pulled her long black hair into a ponytail, and changed into the nicest clothes she owned, a simple black dress and flats. Looking in the mirror, she saw the dark circles under her eyes, the worry etched into her brown skin. She looked like what she was. Exhausted, afraid, desperate. Exactly 1 hour later, her phone buzzed with a text. I'm outside. Naomi grabbed her purse and headed downstairs, her heart pounding. The black luxury car from last night was parked at the curb, and Joshua stood beside it. In the daylight, he was even more striking. His black hair was perfectly styled, his suit immaculate. He looked like he had stepped out of a magazine. He opened the passenger door for her with a slight smile. Good morning. Good morning, Naomi said, sliding into the car. The leather seats were soft and expensive. Everything smelled new and clean. Joshua got in and pulled away from the curb smoothly. Did you sleep at all? Not really, Naomi admitted. Understandable. He glanced at her. Did he show up? No, but I kept thinking he would. Joshua's jaw tightened slightly, but he said nothing. They drove through the city in comfortable silence. Naomi watched the neighborhoods change from worn and tired to polished and prosperous. Finally, they pulled up in front of a stunning building that stretched toward the sky. The Grandview Hotel. Naomi had walked past it once or twice but never imagined going inside. The entrance was elegant, with gleaming glass doors and doormen in crisp uniforms. Everything about it screamed wealth and exclusivity. Come on, Joshua said, getting out of the car. A valet appeared immediately to take his keys. Naomi followed him through a side entrance away from the main lobby. They took a private elevator down one level. When the doors opened, they stepped into a beautiful restaurant space. Even empty, it took Naomi's breath away. The dining room was sophisticated and warm, with soft lighting and elegant table settings. Floor-to-ceiling windows. No, wait, she couldn't use that phrase. Large windows looked out onto a garden courtyard. The kitchen visible through glass panels was state-of-the-art, gleaming stainless steel and professional equipment. This is Stella's, Joshua said. My flagship restaurant. We serve dinner 6 nights a week and we're consistently booked solid. A woman in chef's whites emerged from the kitchen. She was in her 50s with graying hair and kind eyes. Good morning, Josh, she said, then noticed Naomi. And who is this? This is Naomi Smith, Joshua said. Potentially our newest team member. Naomi, this is Chef Helen Reeves. She runs Stella's. Helen extended her hand and Naomi shook it. Nice to meet you. You too, Naomi said quietly. Naomi has extensive restaurant experience, Joshua said smoothly. I think she'd be an excellent addition to the front of house team. Naomi blinked. She had worked at cafes and diners for years, but she wouldn't call it extensive. Still, she didn't contradict him. Helen studied her for a moment, then smiled. Well, we could certainly use the help. Good people are hard to find. She turned to Joshua. I'll leave you two to talk. Nice meeting you, Naomi. I hope we'll be working together. When Helen disappeared back into the kitchen, Joshua turned to Naomi. The staff here are excellent, professional, respectful. You'd be working mostly evening shifts, serving dinner. The pay is well above standard for the industry. Plus tips, and the clientele tips well. Naomi walked slowly through the dining room, taking it all in. It was so far removed from the small cafe where she had been working. This was a different world entirely. I've never worked anywhere this nice, she admitted. You'll learn quickly, Joshua said. Helen is a good teacher, and the team is supportive. He paused. Do you want to see the apartment? Naomi nodded, not trusting her voice. They took the elevator up 15 floors. Joshua led her down a quiet, carpeted hallway and stopped at a door marked 1507. He pulled out a key and unlocked it. This unit just became available last week, he said, pushing the door open. It's fully furnished, but if you don't like the furniture, we can change it. Naomi stepped inside and froze. The apartment was beautiful. Hardwood floors, fresh paint, windows that let in streams of natural light. The living area was spacious, with a comfortable couch and armchair. The kitchen was small but modern, with new appliances. Through an open door, she could see a bedroom with an actual bed, not just a mattress on the floor like she had now. But more than the beauty, it felt safe. The door had multiple locks. The windows were high enough that no one could climb through them. The building itself had felt secure, with cameras and a front desk attendant. The building has 24-hour security, Joshua said, watching her reaction. No one gets past the front desk without being cleared by a resident. There are cameras in all common areas. Your floor requires keycard access from the elevator. Naomi walked through the apartment slowly, touching the walls like she couldn't quite believe they were real. In the bathroom, there was an actual bathtub. She hadn't had a bathtub in years. When she came back to the living room, Joshua was standing by the windows, giving her space. What's the catch? She asked quietly. He turned to face her. What do you mean? This is too much. Naomi gestured around the apartment. The job, this place, your help. Nobody does this without wanting something in return. So what do you want? Joshua was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked over to the couch and sat down, gesturing for her to sit as well. Naomi perched on the edge of the armchair, her body tense. Fair question, he said. Here's the truth. I built my business from nothing. I know what it's like to have no options, no safety net. I also know what it's like when someone gives you a chance you didn't think you deserved. He leaned forward, his green eyes serious. I'm not asking for anything, except that you show up and do the work. No strings. No expectations beyond being a good employee. You'll sign a standard employment contract and a standard lease, everything legal and documented. Why me? Naomi whispered. You don't know anything about me. I know you had the courage to ask a stranger for help when you were terrified, Joshua said. I know you're trying to escape a dangerous situation, and I know that everyone deserves a chance to start over. He paused. My lawyer will draw up both contracts. You can have your own lawyer review them if you want. Take all the time you need to decide. Naomi looked around the apartment again. Sunlight was streaming through the windows, warm and bright. She tried to imagine waking up here, going to sleep here without fear, working in that beautiful restaurant, living a normal life. How much is the rent? She asked. Joshua named a figure that was less than what she was currently paying for her terrible studio. That's too low, Naomi said. This apartment is worth 3 times that. It's what I'm offering, Joshua said firmly, and the job starts at $18 an hour plus tips. You'll average between 200 and 300 a night in tips, based on what the other servers make. Naomi did the math in her head. It was more money than she had ever made. Enough to save. Enough to build a life. "I need to ask you something," she said, meeting his eyes. "And I need you to be honest. Is this real? Or am I going to wake up and find out there's some price I didn't know about?" Joshua held her gaze steadily. "This is real, Naomi. I promise you, no hidden prices." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. "Can I start in 3 days?" she asked. "I need time to give notice at my current job and pack my things." "Of course." Joshua pulled out his phone. "I'll have the contracts drawn up today. You can pick them up tomorrow, review them, and sign when you're ready." He paused. "I can also arrange for security to help you move your belongings. If Oliver knows where you work, he might know where you live." The thought sent ice through Naomi's veins. She hadn't even considered that. Going back to her apartment, packing alone, vulnerable. "That would be good," she said quietly. "Thank you." Joshua made a few quick calls while Naomi explored the apartment again. She opened closets, tested the kitchen faucet, stood in the bedroom imagining her few belongings in this space. When she came back out, Joshua was off the phone. "All set," he said. "The contracts will be ready tomorrow afternoon, and I have a team that can help you move on Saturday. Does that work?" "Yes," Naomi said, then more firmly. "Yes, I'll do it. I'll take the job and the apartment." Something like relief crossed Joshua's face, though it was gone so quickly she almost missed it. "Good," he said simply. He stood and handed her a key. "This is yours. The apartment is available immediately if you need it." Naomi took the key, feeling the weight of it in her palm. A key to safety. A key to a new life. "I need to ask you one more thing," she said. "Anything. Why were you really in that parking lot last night?" Joshua smiled slightly. "Exactly what I said. Waiting for a business associate who was running late. Wrong place, right time." He walked toward the door, then turned back. Or maybe right place, right time. Depends on how you look at it. He drove her back to her apartment, and this time, when she got out of the car, she felt different. Still scared, still uncertain, but for the first time in over a year, she felt something else too. Hope. "Naomi," Joshua said through the open car door. "If Oliver shows up anywhere, you call me immediately. Day or night, don't hesitate." "I will," she promised. "I mean it. Anytime, any place. I'll be there." The intensity in his voice surprised her. He barely knew her, but he seemed genuinely invested in her safety. "Okay," she said. "I will." She watched him drive away, then went up to her apartment. It looked even more depressing now after seeing where she would be living in just a few days. Naomi pulled out her phone and looked at her shifts at the cafe. She would give her 2 weeks' notice tomorrow, pack her belongings, move into the apartment at the Grandview, start a new job, a new life. She looked at Joshua's business card one more time before tucking it carefully into her wallet. Maybe some strangers could be trusted after all. Maybe she was finally, truly, getting out. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and the promise of change. Naomi had spent the past 3 days packing her meager belongings into boxes, giving notice at the cafe, and preparing herself mentally for the move. She had barely slept, half expecting Oliver to appear at any moment. A knock on her door at exactly 9 in the morning made her jump. She looked through the peephole and saw 2 men in professional security uniforms. "Miss Smith?" one of them called. "We're from Sentinel Security. Mr. Collins sent us." Naomi opened the door cautiously. Both men were professional and courteous, showing her identification badges. "I'm Marcus, this is Devon," the taller one said. "We're here to help you move and make sure everything goes smoothly." Within an hour, her entire life was packed into their van. It was depressing how little she had accumulated. A few boxes of clothes, some books, kitchen supplies, personal items. Everything she owned fit easily. Marcus and Devin were efficient and respectful, never asking questions about why she needed security to move. They carried everything down while Naomi did one final sweep of the apartment she had called home for the past 4 months. She didn't feel sad to leave it. Only relief. The drive to the Grandview took 15 minutes. Oliver never appeared. Naomi kept watching for him, her stomach in knots, but the move went off without incident. By early afternoon, she was standing in her new apartment surrounded by her boxes. Marcus and Devin had carried everything up and done a security sweep of the unit. "All clear, Ms. Smith," Marcus said. "The building is secure. You have our number if you need anything." After they left, Naomi stood in the quiet apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows. The air smelled clean and fresh. She walked to the door and tested all 3 locks, feeling the solid click of each one. Safe. She spent the rest of the day unpacking, arranging her few belongings in the spacious apartment. Her clothes looked lost in the large closet. Her books filled only one shelf, but it was hers. That night, Naomi took a long bath in the actual bathtub, something she hadn't been able to do in years. Then she climbed into the comfortable bed, pulled the soft blankets around her, and waited for the familiar anxiety to hit. It didn't come. For the first time in over a year, she fell asleep without fear. Monday morning, Naomi woke early for her first day at Stella's. She stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes, unsure what to wear. Finally, she chose simple black pants and a white blouse, professional and clean. The restaurant didn't open until 5 for dinner service, but training started at 2. Naomi arrived at 1:45, too nervous to be fashionably late. Helen was already in the kitchen, prepping for the evening. "Right on time," she said with an approving smile. "I like that. Come on, let me introduce you to everyone." The staff at Stella's was small but experienced. There was Thomas, the sous chef, a quiet man in his 40s. 2 line cooks, Rachel and James, both young and energetic. And 3 servers, Kevin, Lucia, and Sophie. "This is Naomi," Helen announced. "She's joining the front of house team. I expect you all to make her feel welcome and help her learn our systems." Everyone was friendly enough, though Naomi could feel them sizing her up. She was used to it. New person always got evaluated, especially in restaurants where teamwork was essential. Sophie, a woman in her late 20s with short red hair, took charge of her training. "It's not complicated once you learn the flow," Sophie explained, showing Naomi the point-of-sale system. "The menu is small, which helps. Stella's is about quality, not quantity." Naomi listened carefully, taking notes. The computer system was more advanced than anything she had used before. The menu featured dishes she had never heard of. The wine list was pages long. "Don't worry," Sophie said, noticing her overwhelmed expression. "No one expects you to know everything on day 1. Just follow my lead tonight and watch how we do things." The dinner service started at 5. By 5:15, the restaurant was half full. By 6, every table was occupied. Naomi shadowed Sophie, watching how she greeted guests, took orders, managed multiple tables simultaneously. Everything moved faster and smoother than the casual cafes where Naomi had worked. The customers were different too. Wealthy, sophisticated, expecting excellence. "You want to try taking that table?" Sophie asked, nodding toward a couple who had just been seated. Naomi's heart jumped into her throat. "I don't know if I'm ready." "Only one way to find out," Sophie said encouragingly. "I'll be right here if you need backup." Naomi approached the table, her hands shaking slightly. The couple was older, well-dressed, already studying the menu. "Good evening," Naomi said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Welcome to Stella's. Can I start you with something to drink?" The woman looked up with a warm smile. "What would you recommend?" Naomi's mind went blank. She had spent an hour studying the wine list, but suddenly every detail evaporated. She felt heat rising in her face. "The Sauvignon Blanc is excellent," Sophie said smoothly, appearing at her elbow. New Zealand, crisp and light, perfect for starting the evening. That sounds wonderful, the woman said. Sophie gave Naomi an encouraging nod and stepped back. Naomi took a breath and continued, getting through the rest of the order without major mistakes. But as she walked back to the kitchen, Oliver's voice echoed in her head. You're worthless. You can't do anything right. You need me. Her hands trembled as she entered the order into the computer. First table jitters, Kevin said, passing by with a tray. Happens to everyone. You did fine. Naomi managed a weak smile, but inside she was screaming at herself. This job was too advanced for her. These people were too sophisticated. She was going to fail, get fired, lose the apartment, end up back where she started. The rest of the shift was a blur of anxiety and small mistakes. She brought the wrong wine to a table, forgot to refill water glasses, stumbled over a description of the evening special. By the time service ended at 10, she was exhausted and humiliated. Sophie found her in the break room, slumped in a chair. Rough first night? Sophie asked kindly. I was terrible, Naomi said. You were nervous, Sophie corrected. There's a difference. You'll be better tomorrow. Naomi wanted to believe her, but the doubt was crushing. She was gathering her things when Helen appeared. Naomi, can I see you for a moment? Naomi's stomach dropped. This was it. Getting fired on the first day. She followed Helen to the small office off the kitchen. To her surprise, Joshua was there, leaning against the desk. How was the first shift? He asked. It was... Naomi struggled to find words. She did well for her first night, Helen said. Nervous, but that's normal. She'll find her rhythm. Joshua's green eyes studied Naomi. What do you think? Honestly. I think I made a lot of mistakes, Naomi admitted quietly. Did anyone die? Joshua asked. What? No. Did you burn down the restaurant? No. Then it wasn't that bad. His tone was matter-of-fact. Helen, can you give us a moment? Helen nodded and left, closing the door behind her. Joshua straightened from the desk. Talk to me. What's really going on? Naomi sank into a chair. I'm not good enough for this job. These customers, this level of service, I'm going to mess up and embarrass you. Who told you that you weren't good enough? Joshua asked. Naomi opened her mouth, then closed it. Oliver. Oliver had told her that, over and over, until she believed it. Someone who was wrong, Joshua said, answering his own question. Listen to me, Naomi. I didn't offer you this job out of pity. I offered it because I think you can do it. Will there be a learning curve? Yes. Will you make mistakes? Absolutely. Does that mean you're not good enough? No. His certainty was steadying. Naomi felt some of the panic ease. Give it 2 weeks, Joshua said. If after 2 weeks you genuinely hate it or feel like it's not working, we'll figure something else out, but don't quit on day 1 because you're scared. Okay, Naomi whispered. 2 weeks. Good. He moved toward the door, then paused. You did better than you think tonight. Sophie told me you were professional and courteous, and that's what matters most. The rest is just practice. He left, and Naomi sat alone in the office for a moment, processing his words. Maybe she could do this. Maybe. The next shift went better, and the one after that, even better. By the end of her first week, Naomi was starting to remember the menu, navigate the computer system more smoothly, and anticipate customer needs. Joshua appeared occasionally, always keeping his distance but watching. After her Friday shift, he caught her by the elevator. Better? He asked. Better, Naomi confirmed. Good. He handed her a coffee in a to-go cup. Saw you skipped your break. Thought you might need this. It was prepared exactly how she liked it. 2 creams, 1 sugar. He had noticed. Thank you, she said, surprised. How's the apartment? He asked. Perfect, really. I still can't believe it's real sometimes. It's real, Joshua said. The elevator arrived and he held the door for her. Get some rest. See you Monday. Naomi rode up to her floor, sipping the coffee, feeling something warm unfurl in her chest that had nothing to do with the drink. Weeks passed, and a routine developed. Work 4 nights a week, days off spent exploring the neighborhood around her apartment, something she had never felt safe doing before. Coffee at a small shop 2 blocks away, walks in the park, simple pleasures she had forgotten existed. At work, she was excelling. Customers started requesting her section. Her tips improved. Helen gave her additional responsibilities, training new staff, handling VIP tables. The other servers accepted her fully now. Lucia invited her out for drinks after work. Kevin joked with her during service. Even Thomas, the usually silent sous chef, complimented her on how well she described his dishes to customers. And Joshua continued checking in, bringing her coffee during breaks, asking if she needed anything for the apartment. Small gestures that showed he was paying attention. Naomi found herself watching for him, her heart doing a strange flutter when he appeared. She noticed details about him, the way he rolled his sleeves up when he was working in his office, how he remembered everyone's names, from the executive chef to the dishwashers, the rare, genuine smile he gave when something pleased him. One evening after her shift, he found her in the empty dining room, going over her section's receipts. Naomi, do you have plans tonight? She looked up, surprised. No, why? Have dinner with me, he said. Here, after the kitchen closes. I'd like to talk to you about something. Her stomach flipped. Is something wrong? No, just have dinner with me. Okay, she said. An hour later, they sat at a corner table while Thomas prepared 2 plates of the evening special. The restaurant was quiet, lights dimmed, just the 2 of them. You've been here almost 2 months, Joshua said. How are you feeling about everything? Good, Naomi said honestly. Really good. Better than I've felt in years. I can see it, Joshua said. You carry yourself differently than when we met. I feel different, Naomi admitted. Stronger? Maybe. More like myself. Thomas brought their food, and they ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Joshua set down his fork. I want to tell you something, he said, about how I built all this. He talked about starting with nothing, working his way up from washing dishes to managing restaurants to finally buying his first property. The risks he took, the failures along the way, the people who helped him when he needed it most. That's why I offered to help you, he said. Because someone did the same for me once. Gave me a chance I didn't think I deserved. Naomi listened, seeing him not as her wealthy boss, but as a person who had fought for everything he had. What about you? He asked. Before Oliver. Who were you? It had been so long since anyone asked her that. Naomi thought back to the girl she had been before everything fell apart. I wanted to go to culinary school, she said quietly. I wanted to open my own restaurant someday. A small place, nothing fancy. Somewhere that felt like home. Why didn't you? Joshua asked. Oliver, Naomi said simply. He convinced me it was a stupid dream, that I wasn't talented enough. Eventually, I believed him. Do you still want that? Joshua asked. Culinary school? Your own restaurant? I don't know, Naomi admitted. Maybe. It feels impossible now. Nothing is impossible, Joshua said. Just delayed. They talked until midnight, the conversation flowing easily. When Joshua finally walked her to the elevator, Naomi felt lighter than she had in years. Thank you, she said. For dinner, for the conversation, for everything. Any time, Joshua said. Naomi rode up to her apartment, her mind swirling. Inside, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. She looked different. Her eyes were brighter. Her face had lost the pinched, frightened look. She stood straighter, This was who she was when she wasn't afraid, when she wasn't being told she was worthless. She thought about Joshua, the way he listened to her, the way he believed in her potential, the kindness in his green eyes. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Did you make it home safe?" Naomi smiled and typed back, "Yes, thank you again for tonight." "Sleep well, Naomi." She set the phone down and climbed into bed, her heart doing that strange flutter again. This was dangerous territory. Joshua was her boss, her protector, the man who had saved her from Oliver. But she couldn't deny the way her pulse quickened when he was near, the way she looked forward to seeing him, the growing feelings that had nothing to do with gratitude and everything to do with something deeper. Naomi closed her eyes, trying to quiet her racing thoughts. Tomorrow was another day, another shift, another step forward in this new life she was building. Whatever she was feeling for Joshua Collins would have to wait. For now, being safe and happy was enough. 2 months into working at Stella's, Naomi stood at the host stand training a new server named Eric, a nervous college student who reminded her of herself on that first terrifying night. "The most important thing is to stay calm," she told him, demonstrating how to balance 3 plates properly. "Even when you feel overwhelmed, the customers can't see that. Deep breath, smile, and take it 1 table at a time." Eric nodded, scribbling notes on a pad. "You're a natural at this," Helen said, appearing beside them. "Ever think about management?" Naomi blinked in surprise. "Me? No, I just started." "You've been here 2 months and you're already one of my most reliable servers," Helen said. "Customers request you specifically. The team respects you. You have good instincts." She paused. "Just think about it." After Helen walked away, Naomi stood there processing the compliment. Management, leadership, responsibility, things Oliver had convinced her she was incapable of handling. But she was handling them. Every shift, she grew more confident. She knew the menu inside and out now, could recommend wine pairings without hesitation, managed difficult customers with grace. Her section was always full, and her tips reflected her excellent service. For the first time in years, she had financial stability, money in savings, the ability to buy things she needed without panic. It was a freedom she had forgotten existed. That evening during service, Joshua appeared at the edge of the dining room. Naomi felt her awareness of him immediately, like her body had developed a sixth sense for his presence. He caught her eye and gestured toward his office. Naomi finished serving her current table, then made her way to the back. Joshua was waiting in the hallway outside his office, looking at his phone. "Everything okay?" she asked. He looked up, and something in his expression made her pause. Not worry exactly, more like careful consideration. "I have a business dinner tomorrow night," he said. "Potential investors for a new property. I'd like you to come with me." Naomi's eyebrows rose. "Me? Why?" "Because I trust you," Joshua said simply. "And I value your perspective. These dinners can be tedious, and having someone there who I can actually talk to would make it more bearable." "I don't know anything about hotel investments," Naomi protested. "You don't need to. Just be yourself." He paused. "It's at the Meridian, 7 o'clock. Formal attire." Naomi's stomach dropped. "Joshua, I don't have anything formal enough for a place like the Meridian." "I thought you might say that." He pulled out a business card and handed it to her. "There's a boutique 2 blocks from here. I've arranged for them to help you find something appropriate. No obligation, but I thought you might like the option." Naomi looked at the card. Then back at him. "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to," Joshua said. "I want to. You'd be doing me a favor by coming to this dinner. Let me make it easier for you to say yes." The way he phrased it, like she would be helping him, made it harder to refuse. "Okay," Naomi said finally. "I'll go." Something like relief crossed his face. "Good. I'll pick you up at 6:30. The next afternoon, Naomi visited the boutique with the card Joshua had given her. The owner, a stylish woman named Patricia, greeted her warmly. "Mr. Collins called ahead," Patricia said. "Let's find you something perfect." An hour later, Naomi stood in front of a mirror, wearing a dress that made her feel like someone else entirely. It was deep emerald green, elegant and sophisticated, fitting her perfectly. Not too revealing, but beautiful. "That's the one," Patricia said with satisfaction. When Naomi asked about the price, Patricia smiled. "Already taken care of." "No, I can't," Naomi started. "Mr. Collins was very clear," Patricia said gently. "And honestly, dear, let someone do something nice for you. You look beautiful." Back at her apartment, Naomi found a small box on her doorstep. Inside was a note in Joshua's handwriting. "No obligation, but thought you might like this. J." Beneath the note was a delicate silver necklace, simple but elegant. Naomi sat on her couch holding the necklace, her heart doing complicated things in her chest. This felt like more than an employer helping an employee. This felt personal. At 6:30 exactly, Joshua knocked on her door. When Naomi opened it, she saw his eyes widen slightly. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you." Naomi touched the necklace at her throat. "And thank you for this." "It suits you," Joshua said. He looked different too, in a perfectly tailored dark suit, his black hair styled immaculately. "Ready?" The drive to the Meridian was quiet, both of them seeming to feel the shift in their dynamic. This wasn't boss and employee tonight. This was something else. The restaurant was exclusive and expensive, exactly the kind of place that would have intimidated Naomi months ago. But working at Stella's had given her confidence. She walked in beside Joshua with her head high. The investors were already there. 2 men and a woman, all in their 50s, radiating wealth and power. Joshua made introductions smoothly. "This is Naomi Smith," he said. "She manages operations at my flagship restaurant." Naomi blinked at the promotion, but didn't contradict him. They sat, and the dinner began. To her surprise, Naomi found herself relaxing. The investors were pleasant, and Joshua included her in the conversation naturally. When they asked about Stella's, she described the restaurant and its operations with genuine enthusiasm. "You clearly love what you do," the woman Karen observed. "I do," Naomi said. "It's rewarding to create experiences that matter to people." Joshua's eyes on her were warm with something beyond professional appreciation. Throughout dinner, she was aware of him in ways that had nothing to do with business. The way he listened when she spoke, how his hand brushed hers when he reached for his water glass, and the pride evident in his expression when she impressed his associates. On the drive home, Joshua was quiet for several blocks before speaking. "You were perfect tonight," he said. "I just answered their questions," Naomi said. "You did more than that. You were confident, articulate, and genuine." He glanced at her. They were impressed. I was too. The warmth in his voice made Naomi's pulse quicken. "Thank you for bringing me." "Thank you for coming." A pause. "I enjoyed having you there." The words hung between them, weighted with meaning. Over the following weeks, the business dinners became regular. Joshua always asked her to accompany him, and Naomi always said yes. She told herself it was professional, that he valued her input. But the truth was harder to ignore. He started joining her during breaks at the restaurant, bringing coffee prepared exactly how she liked it. Their conversations shifted from work topics to personal ones. He told her about building his empire, the risks and failures along the way. She shared stories about her life before Oliver, dreams she had abandoned. "You should go to culinary school," Joshua said one night during a late break. "You have the passion for it." "Maybe someday," Naomi said. "Why not now?" "Because I'm still figuring out who I am without fear," Naomi admitted. "Culinary school feels like something the old Naomi wanted. I'm not sure what the new Naomi wants yet." Joshua studied her thoughtfully. I think they're the same person. Just one version was told she couldn't have her dreams, and the other is remembering she can. The insight struck deep. Naomi met his eyes, seeing understanding there that went beyond casual concern. The other staff noticed their closeness. Naomi caught knowing looks between Sophie and Lucia. Kevin made a joke once about teacher's pet that made her blush. One evening after a shift, Helen pulled her aside. Can I give you some advice? Helen asked gently. Of course. Be careful, Helen said. Joshua Collins is a complicated man. He's good, but his world is different from most people's. Make sure you know what you're getting into. We're just friends, Naomi protested. Helen gave her a look that said she wasn't fooled. Okay, but when that changes, just be careful. Alone later, Naomi couldn't stop thinking about Helen's words. Was it that obvious? Could everyone see what she was trying to deny? Joshua also started giving her access to hotel amenities. A key card to the gym and spa, an employee account at the hotel gift shop. When she protested, he was firm. You represent my business, he said, and yourself. Both deserve the best. Then he handed her a credit card with her name on it. Joshua, no, Naomi said immediately. That's too much. It's for work wardrobe, he said. You're attending business dinners regularly now. You need appropriate clothing. I can buy my own clothes. I know you can, but you're doing me a favor by attending these events. Let me make it easier. His green eyes held hers. Please, Naomi, let me help you. The way he said it, almost pleading, made her relent. But later, alone in her apartment, she worried. Was she becoming dependent on him? Was this how it started with Oliver, accepting gifts and help until she felt obligated? But Joshua wasn't Oliver. He had never demanded anything, never made her feel small, only supported her growth. Still, the concern lingered. One Thursday night, service ran particularly late. A large party stayed until nearly midnight, and closing took forever. Naomi was exhausted as she finally left the restaurant. Joshua was waiting in the lobby. What are you doing here? She asked. Making sure you get home safe, he said. It's late. You didn't have to wait. I wanted to. He drove her home through quiet streets. When they reached her building, he parked and walked her to the elevator. You don't have to come up, Naomi said. I know. But he got in the elevator anyway. They rode up in silence, charged with awareness. At her door, Naomi fumbled with her keys, too conscious of Joshua standing close behind her. Thank you, she said, turning to face him. For the ride, for everything. Anytime. Joshua looked at her, and the air between them felt electric. He reached up slowly, giving her time to move away if she wanted. His fingers brushed her cheek, tucking a strand of her long black hair behind her ear. The gesture was so gentle, so intimate, that Naomi's breath caught. They stood frozen, inches apart. Joshua's hand lingered near her face. Naomi's eyes locked on his. She saw the want there, carefully controlled but unmistakable. She leaned in slightly. He did the same. Her phone rang, shrill and sudden in the quiet hallway. They both jumped back. Naomi pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Unknown number. She didn't answer, but the moment was broken. I should go, Joshua said, his voice rough. Get some rest. Joshua. Good night, Naomi. He walked to the elevator quickly, not looking back. Naomi let herself into her apartment and leaned against the closed door, her heart pounding so hard she felt dizzy. That had almost been a kiss. Would have been a kiss if her phone hadn't rung. She walked to her bedroom on unsteady legs and sat on the bed, processing what had happened. What had almost happened. This was dangerous. Joshua was her boss, her protector, the man who had saved her from Oliver and given her a new life. Getting involved with him romantically could complicate everything. But when she thought about the way he looked at her, the way her heart raced when he was near, she couldn't deny what she felt. Was she falling for another man who might try to control her? Oliver had started kind too, hadn't he? But no, Joshua was different. Everything about their relationship was different. Oliver had isolated her, diminished her, made her small. Joshua encouraged her growth, celebrated her success, gave her freedom. This wasn't fear she felt when she thought about him. It was hope, possibility, the terrifying, exhilarating feeling of wanting someone who seemed to want her back. Naomi lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling. She was falling in love with Joshua Collins. The realization should have terrified her. After everything with Oliver, after all the pain and fear, falling for someone should have been impossible. But here she was, lying in the safe apartment he had provided, working at the job he had given her, wearing the necklace he had gifted her, and completely, utterly falling for him. Terror and hope mixed in her chest, fighting for dominance. Tomorrow she would see him again. Would things be awkward after tonight? Would he pretend it hadn't happened? Or would he acknowledge what was growing between them? Naomi closed her eyes, exhausted but too wired to sleep. Whatever happened next, she couldn't deny her feelings anymore. She was in love with Joshua Collins, and there was no going back. 3 months had passed since that night in the parking lot. 3 months of safety, of routine, of slowly learning to breathe without fear. Naomi had almost convinced herself that Oliver was gone for good. Life had settled into something that felt remarkably normal. She excelled at work, had friends among the staff, and her apartment felt like home. Her savings account was growing. She slept through the night without nightmares. The constant tension that had lived in her shoulders for over a year had finally eased, and then there was Joshua. Since that almost kiss in the hallway 2 weeks ago, something had shifted between them. The air felt charged whenever they were in the same room. He found more reasons to stop by the restaurant during her shifts. She found herself watching the door, hoping to see him. They hadn't talked about what had almost happened, but it hung between them, a promise waiting to be fulfilled. Tuesday evening started like any other. Stella's was fully booked, every table occupied, the energy high. Naomi moved through her section with confidence, balancing plates, refilling wine glasses, chatting easily with customers. She was laughing at something Kevin had said when she turned toward the entrance and froze. Oliver West stood just inside the restaurant door, talking to the host. The plate in Naomi's hand nearly slipped. Her vision tunneled. Every sound in the restaurant faded to a dull roar. He was here, in her safe place, in the life she had built without him. Oliver was dressed nicely, wearing slacks and a button-down shirt she had never seen before, trying to blend in with Stella's upscale clientele. But his brown eyes found hers across the room with laser focus, and his mouth curved into a smile that made her stomach turn. The host was gesturing to the dining room, and Naomi's heart sank as she realized what was happening. Oliver was requesting a table, in her section. She watched in horror as the host led him to table 12, right in the center of her area. Oliver sat down, never breaking eye contact with her. "Naomi? You okay?" Sophie appeared beside her, concern creasing her face. Naomi couldn't form words. Her hands had started shaking. "That's him, isn't it?" Sophie said quietly. "Your ex." Naomi managed a small nod. "Do you want me to take that table?" Everything in Naomi screamed yes, but Oliver would just come back another night. He had found her. Running wouldn't help. "No," Naomi said, her voice barely steady. "I can handle it." She approached table 12 on legs that felt like water. Her hands trembled as she set down a water glass and menu. "Good evening," she said, fighting to keep her voice professional. "Welcome to Stella's." "Miss me?" Oliver asked pleasantly, like they were old friends catching up. Naomi's throat closed. Up close, she could see the familiar darkness in his eyes, the possessive hunger she had tried so hard to escape. "What can I get you to drink?" she asked, ignoring his question. "Information," Oliver said quietly, his voice too low for nearby tables to hear. Like where you're living now, that fancy building with all the security. Must be nice. Ice flooded Naomi's veins. He knew where she lived. I'll give you a moment to look at the menu, she said, turning to leave. I know you finish your shift at 10, Oliver continued, still in that conversational tone. Meet me outside after. We need to talk. No. The word came out stronger than Naomi felt. Oliver's smile disappeared. That wasn't a request, Naomi. Either you meet me, or I come to your apartment. Your choice. I'm not meeting you anywhere, Naomi said, her voice shaking now. You need to leave. She turned to walk away. Oliver's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, fingers digging in tight enough to hurt. Don't walk away from me, he hissed. Naomi yanked her arm back, stumbling slightly. The movement drew attention from nearby tables. Customers turned to look. Helen appeared instantly, her face professionally neutral, but her eyes sharp. Is everything all right here? She asked. Oliver released Naomi's wrist and leaned back in his chair, smile returning. Everything's fine. Just greeting an old friend. Naomi? Helen's eyes went to her pale face. He needs to leave, Naomi said. Her whole body was shaking now. Please. Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the restaurant, Helen said firmly. I'm just trying to have dinner, Oliver protested, his voice rising. Is that a crime? You're making my staff uncomfortable, Helen said. Security is already on the way. You can leave on your own or they can escort you out. Oliver stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. Other diners were watching openly now. This is ridiculous. I didn't do anything wrong. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of the dining room, moving quickly toward the table. You'll regret this, Naomi, Oliver said, loud enough for half the restaurant to hear. You can't hide from me. I know where you live. I know your schedule. I know everything. Sir, come with us. The security guards flanked him, professional but firm. Oliver allowed himself to be led away, but he kept talking. This isn't over, Naomi. You hear me? This isn't over. His voice echoed through the restaurant until the door closed behind him. Silence fell over the dining room. Everyone was staring. Naomi stood frozen. Humiliation and terror warring in her chest. Her wrist throbbed where Oliver had grabbed it. Her lungs couldn't seem to get enough air. Naomi, come with me, Helen said gently, taking her elbow. Naomi let herself be led to the back office. The moment the door closed, her legs gave out. She sank to the floor, her back against the wall, gasping for air. Panic attack. She was having a panic attack. Her vision was spotting, her hands were numb. She couldn't breathe. I'm calling Joshua, she heard Helen say from far away. Naomi tried to protest, but no words would come. She was drowning in fear, in the certainty that Oliver would never let her go, that all of this safety had been an illusion. She didn't know how much time passed, seconds or minutes or hours. But then Joshua was there, dropping to his knees in front of her. Naomi, look at me. His voice cut through the panic, calm and steady. You're safe. Breathe with me. He took her hands in his, pressing them against his chest. Feel that? In and out. Match my breathing. In and out. Naomi focused on the rise and fall of his chest, the warmth of his hands. Slowly, painfully, her breathing began to even out. That's it, Joshua murmured. You're doing great. Keep breathing. When she could finally speak, the words tumbled out broken and desperate. He knows where I live. He said he knows my schedule. Joshua, he's not going to stop. I know. Joshua's voice was gentle, but his jaw was clenched tight with fury. But neither am I. He helped her to her feet, keeping one arm around her waist. Helen, I'm taking her upstairs. Can you manage without her for the rest of the night? Of course. Take care of her. Joshua led Naomi to the private elevator and up to his office on the top floor. Once inside, he settled her on the leather couch and handed her a bottle of water. Tell me exactly what he said, Joshua said, pulling a chair close to her. Naomi recounted the encounter, her voice shaking. Joshua listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker. When she finished, he pulled out his phone and made a call. David, I need you here immediately. Pause. No, now. We have a situation. He made 3 more calls while Naomi sat wrapped in shock. She heard fragments. Full security detail. Restraining order filed by morning. I want his photo distributed to every property. She realized she was seeing a side of Joshua she had only glimpsed before. This wasn't just a hotel owner. This was a man with serious power and connections. Who are you? She whispered when he hung up. Joshua turned to her, his green eyes serious. Someone who keeps his promises. I told you I'd protect you. I meant it. Within an hour, his office was full of people. Security specialists, lawyers in expensive suits, even someone who looked like a private investigator. They all deferred to Joshua, taking his orders without question. Naomi sat on the couch, overwhelmed by the swift and comprehensive response. Personal security details starting tonight, Joshua told her. Someone will be watching your apartment building at all times. Your floor is getting additional security measures. Every hotel employee now has Oliver's photo. If he comes within 100 feet of any of my properties, we'll know. Joshua? This is too much, Naomi protested weakly. It's not enough, he said flatly. Not until he can't touch you. The meeting dispersed, leaving them alone again. Naomi looked at the clock, nearly midnight. I should go home, she said, standing on unsteady legs. No. Joshua's voice was firm. You're staying here tonight. Where? My penthouse. I have a guest room. Joshua. Naomi, please. He moved closer, his expression softening. I need to know you're safe tonight. Let me have that peace of mind. She was too exhausted to argue, too shaken to be alone. Okay. Joshua's penthouse was on the top floor, accessed by a private elevator. Naomi had never been there before. It was spacious and elegant, with large windows overlooking the city lights. He showed her to a guest bedroom with an attached bathroom. Everything you need should be in there. If you need anything else, I'm just down the hall. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly aware that she was alone in Joshua Collins' home, wearing her work clothes, completely out of her depth. Joshua appeared in the doorway with a mug of tea. This should help you sleep. Thank you. She took the mug, wrapping her hands around its warmth. Joshua sat beside her, not touching but close. I know you're scared, but I meant what I said. He won't get near you again. He always finds me, Naomi whispered. No matter what I do. Then we'll make sure he can't reach you when he does. Joshua's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. I have resources, Naomi. Connections. I'm not going to let him hurt you. Naomi looked at him, seeing the controlled fury in his clenched jaw, the protective intensity in his eyes. Why do you care so much? The question hung in the air between them. Joshua was quiet for a long moment. Because you matter, he said finally. To me. You matter to me. The words settled over Naomi like a blanket. She set down the tea and, without thinking, leaned into him. Joshua's arms came around her immediately, holding her close. I've got you, he murmured into her hair. I've got you. Naomi let herself cry then, releasing the terror and humiliation of the evening. Joshua held her through it all, solid and unwavering. When the tears finally subsided, Naomi pulled back slightly. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Joshua's hand came up to cup her face gently. Never apologize for being human. They sat like that for a while, close and quiet. Finally, Joshua stood. Try to get some sleep. I'll be right down the hall if you need anything. After he left, Naomi changed into a t-shirt she found in the dresser and climbed into bed. The sheets were soft and expensive, the room quiet and safe. But sleep didn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, She saw Oliver's face, heard his threats. Around 2 in the morning, she gave up and walked into the hallway. Light showed under Joshua's door. She knocked softly. "Come in," his voice called. Joshua was sitting up in bed, laptop open, clearly working. He looked up when she entered, concern immediate on his face. "Can't sleep?" he asked. Naomi shook her head. "Every time I close my eyes." "Come here." He closed the laptop and shifted over, patting the space beside him. Naomi climbed onto the bed, sitting against the headboard next to him. Joshua's arm came around her shoulders, and she leaned into his solid warmth. "Talk to me," he said quietly. "About anything. Something good." So Naomi talked. About her childhood, before everything went wrong. About the mother who had taught her to bake, the dreams she had before Oliver convinced her to give them up. Joshua listened, asking questions, keeping her grounded in good memories instead of fear. Eventually, her eyes grew heavy. She felt herself drifting off, safe in the circle of Joshua's arms. The last thing she was aware of was Joshua pulling a blanket over her and his voice, soft and sure. "Sleep, Naomi. I'm not going anywhere. I promise." And for the first time that night, she believed she was truly safe. Naomi woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a moment, she was disoriented. This wasn't her bedroom. The sheets were too soft, the mattress too comfortable. Then memory returned. Oliver at the restaurant, the panic attack. Joshua bringing her to his penthouse. She had fallen asleep in his bed, in his arms. Naomi sat up quickly, her heart racing. She was alone in the room, still wearing the borrowed t-shirt. The clock on the nightstand read 8:30. Voices drifted from somewhere in the penthouse. Naomi climbed out of bed and followed the sound to a spacious kitchen bathed in morning light. Joshua stood at the stove, dressed in dark jeans and a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up to his elbows. He was making breakfast. The domestic scene was so unexpected, so intimate, that Naomi stopped in the doorway. "Good morning," Joshua said, noticing her. "Case, how did you sleep?" "Better than I expected," Naomi admitted. "Thank you for letting me stay." "Any time." He gestured to the counter. "Coffee's ready. Breakfast will be done in a minute." Naomi poured herself a cup, watching him move around the kitchen with easy competence. "I didn't know you cooked." "I don't, usually, but I can manage eggs and toast." He plated the food and brought it to the small breakfast table. "Sit. We need to talk." The words sent a flutter of nerves through her stomach, but she sat. "The restraining order has been filed," Joshua said, sitting across from her. "My lawyers expedited the process. Oliver will be served today. If he comes within 500 feet of you, he'll be arrested." "Will that really stop him?" Naomi asked quietly. "It gives us legal recourse when he violates it," Joshua said. "And he will violate it. Men like him always do. But we'll be ready." He paused. "Your apartment building now has additional security. 2 guards on rotation, 24/7. They have Oliver's photo. Every employee at every one of my properties has been notified. If he shows up anywhere, we'll know immediately." The swift, comprehensive response should have made Naomi feel better. Instead, it hammered home how serious the threat was. "I think you should take a few days off work," Joshua continued. "Give yourself time to process what happened." "No." Naomi's response was immediate. "I can't let him take that from me too. I won't hide." Joshua studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "All right. But I'm driving you to and from work. No arguments." "Joshua, you don't have to." "I want to." His green eyes were intense. "Naomi, I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that?" The question hung between them, weighted with meaning beyond just the Oliver situation. Naomi realized with sudden clarity that she already did trust him, more than anyone in years, maybe more than anyone ever. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." Something in Joshua's expression softened. "Then trust me when I say I won't let him hurt you, whatever it takes." The promise in his voice was absolute. Naomi believed him. The week that followed was tense, but uneventful. Oliver didn't appear. Joshua drove Naomi to work each day, and a security guard escorted her to her apartment each night. She kept waiting for Oliver to show up, for another confrontation, but he stayed away. The restraining order had been served. According to Joshua's lawyers, Oliver had taken it badly, but hadn't violated it yet. "He's planning something," Naomi said on Friday evening as Joshua drove her home from work. "I know him. He won't just give up." "Then we'll be ready when he makes his move," Joshua said calmly. At her apartment building, instead of letting her out, Joshua turned to her. "Pack a bag." "What?" "Pack enough for a weekend. We're leaving." "Where are we going?" "Away." Joshua's expression was unreadable. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere you can breathe without looking over your shoulder. Do you trust me?" There was that question again. Naomi nodded. 20 minutes later, she emerged from her apartment with a small duffel bag. Joshua took it from her and placed it in his trunk beside a bag of his own. They drove out of the city as the sun began to set. Leaving the buildings and crowds behind, Joshua wouldn't tell her where they were going, just smiled when she asked. "You'll see." 2 hours later, they pulled up to a house that took Naomi's breath away. It sat on a cliff overlooking the ocean, all glass and weathered wood, isolated and beautiful. "What is this place?" Naomi asked as they got out of the car. "Mine," Joshua said. "I bought it a few years ago. Use it maybe twice a year when I need to get away from everything." He grabbed their bags. "Come on." Inside, the house was open and airy, with windows facing the ocean. The sound of waves filled the space. It was peaceful in a way Naomi hadn't experienced in years. "It's beautiful," she said, walking to the windows. "I thought you could use a break," Joshua said, coming to stand beside her. "No work, no fear, no looking over your shoulder, just peace." Naomi felt something tight in her chest begin to loosen. "Thank you." They settled in, and Joshua ordered dinner from a local seafood place that delivered. They ate on the deck as the sun finished setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "When did you buy this place?" Naomi asked. 3 years ago. I was working too much, burning out. Someone told me I needed somewhere to escape to." He looked out at the ocean. "It helped, gave me perspective." "Do you bring people here often?" "Never." Joshua met her eyes. "You're the first person I've brought here." The admission made Naomi's heart skip. "Why me?" "Because I wanted to share it with you." His voice was quiet. "Because I wanted you to feel safe, really safe, even if just for a weekend." They talked as the stars came out, the conversation flowing easily. Naomi found herself sharing things she rarely spoke about. Her dreams before Oliver. Her mother who had died when she was 18. The culinary school scholarship she had turned down because Oliver convinced her she would fail. "You should go now," Joshua said. "Apply again. You're talented, Naomi. I've seen it." "Maybe," Naomi said. "But what I really want is to help people like me. Women who've been through what I went through. Give them opportunities, support, a way to rebuild." "Like a restaurant that hires abuse survivors," Joshua said thoughtfully. "Exactly." Naomi felt her passion rising. A place where they can find not just a job but a community, learn skills, earn money, rebuild their confidence. "I'd call it Second Chances Cafe." Joshua was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. "Tell me more." So she did. The ideas she had been developing in quiet moments poured out. The vision of a warm, welcoming space, staff who understood trauma, partnerships with counselors and legal advocates. Not charity, but real employment with dignity. "I love it," Joshua said when she finished, "and I want to help you make it happen." "Joshua, that's a huge investment." "I'm not offering charity, I'm offering partnership." His eyes were serious. "This is a viable business with a meaningful mission. When you're ready, we'll do it together." The certainty in his voice made it feel possible. Real. What about you? Naomi asked. What drives you? Why build an empire? Joshua was quiet for a moment, looking out at the dark ocean. I grew up with nothing, built everything from the ground up to prove I could, to prove I was worth something. He paused. But somewhere along the way, I realized that success without meaning is just emptiness. I have money and power, but what's the point if I'm not using it for something that matters? Is that why you helped me? Naomi asked softly. I helped you because you needed help, and I could provide it, Joshua said. But keeping you in my life? That's selfish. That's because you make me feel like all of this means something. The honesty in his words took Naomi's breath away. They moved inside as the night grew cooler. Joshua opened a bottle of wine, and they ended up in the kitchen cooking together, laughing as they tried to coordinate. It felt normal and domestic and wonderful. Later, they sat on the couch with the windows open, ocean sounds drifting in. The conversation turned serious again. I don't know how to do this, Naomi admitted quietly. Trust someone. Be in a relationship without fear. We'll figure it out together, Joshua said. He turned to face her fully. Naomi, I need you to know something. I have feelings for you, real feelings, but I will never push you. We move at whatever pace you need. If all you can handle is friendship right now, that's what will be. Naomi's heart was pounding. What if I'm broken? What if Oliver damaged me so much that I can't? You're not broken. Joshua's voice was firm. You're healing. There's a difference. He reached for her hand. I've waited this long to find you. I can wait as long as you need. What if I don't want to wait? Naomi whispered. Joshua went very still. What? What if I want this? Want you? The words felt terrifying and liberating at once. I'm scared, but not of you. I'm scared of myself, of my own judgment. But when I'm with you, I feel safe. I feel like myself again. Naomi? Joshua's voice was rough with emotion. She leaned closer. Kiss me. Please. Are you sure? Yes. Joshua cupped her face gently, giving her every opportunity to change her mind. Then he leaned in slowly, and his lips met hers. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative and sweet. Then Naomi's hands moved to his shoulders, pulling him closer, and the kiss deepened. It was nothing like the rough, demanding kisses Oliver had forced on her. This was mutual and electric and right. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Joshua rested his forehead against hers. I need to tell you something, he said, about my business, about who I really am. Naomi waited, her heart still racing. My hotels are legitimate, but I have connections that aren't entirely conventional. People I've worked with, favors I've called in over the years. My world isn't always clean. He pulled back to look at her. You should know that before we go any further. Are you dangerous? Naomi asked. Not to you. Never to you. Joshua's eyes were serious. But I operate in gray areas sometimes. I have power, and I'm not always careful about how I use it to protect what matters to me. Naomi thought about the swift response to Oliver, the security, the lawyers, the connections. It made sense now. I know who you are, she said finally. You're the man who saved me when I had nowhere else to turn. The man who gave me a job and a safe place to live. The man who believes in me when I can't believe in myself. She took his hand. The rest is just details. Relief crossed Joshua's face. He pulled her close again, and they stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other on the couch, listening to the ocean. The weekend passed in a haze of peace and growing intimacy. They walked on the beach, cooked together, talked for hours. Joshua was patient with Naomi's moments of doubt, never pushing, always reassuring. Sunday evening, as they prepared to drive back to the city, Naomi felt different, lighter, stronger. Thank you for this, she said as Joshua loaded their bags into the car. We can come back whenever you want, he said. This place is yours now, too. On the drive home, Joshua reached over and took her hand. Naomi laced her fingers through his, feeling the rightness of it. They weren't just employer and employee anymore. Not just protector and protected. They were together. Really together. Whatever came next with Oliver, whatever challenges lay ahead, Naomi knew she wouldn't face them alone. When they arrived at her apartment building, Joshua walked her to her door. At the threshold, he pulled her close. I'm glad you trusted me, he said quietly. So am I, Naomi said. He kissed her goodnight, gentle and promise-filled, then waited until she was inside before leaving. Naomi leaned against her closed door, touching her lips, smiling. For the first time in years, she wasn't just surviving. She was living, and she was happy. Weeks passed in a haze of happiness Naomi had forgotten was possible. She and Joshua were officially together now, though they kept things quiet at work. Not a secret exactly, but private. Their relationship was too new, too precious to expose to scrutiny. Still, the staff at Stella's suspected. Naomi caught knowing smiles when Joshua appeared during her shifts. Saw the way Sophie and Lucia exchanged glances when he drove her home. But no one said anything, and Naomi was grateful. She was happier than she had been in years. Working gave her purpose. Her apartment felt like home. And Joshua made her feel safe and cherished in ways she hadn't known were possible. But underneath the happiness, anxiety simmered. Oliver had been quiet since the restraining order was served, but Joshua's security team reported that he was watching from a distance, following Naomi at the edge of legal boundaries. Never close enough to violate the order, but always there, lurking. He's getting more erratic, Joshua told her one evening, showing her the latest security report. My people say he's obsessing, losing focus on everything else. He's planning something, Naomi said, the old fear creeping back. I know him. He won't just give up. Joshua pulled her close. Then this will come to a head soon. He won't stay away forever. But when he makes his move, we'll be ready. The certainty in his voice helped, but Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that the other shoe was about to drop. Friday evening, Joshua suggested dinner at his penthouse. Just us, something normal. Let me spoil you a little. Naomi arrived at 7 to find the table set beautifully, candles lit, soft music playing. A private chef Joshua had hired was putting finishing touches on an elaborate meal. This is too much, Naomi said, but she was smiling. It's exactly enough, Joshua said, kissing her softly. You deserve to be treated well. They ate slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Joshua asked about her dreams for Second Chances Cafe, encouraging her to think bigger. Naomi talked about maybe returning to culinary school, taking a few classes to sharpen her skills. Whatever you want to do, I'll support it, Joshua said. You know that, right? I do. Naomi reached across the table to take his hand. I'm still getting used to having someone believe in me. Get used to it, Joshua said, squeezing her fingers. Because I'm not going anywhere. For the first time in months, Naomi felt completely relaxed. Her guard was down. She was safe here, in Joshua's home, with him beside her. That's when his phone rang. Joshua glanced at the screen and his expression hardened. It's building security, he answered, and Naomi watched his face turn cold with fury. Don't let him leave, Joshua said tersely. I'm coming down. He hung up and looked at Naomi. Oliver's in the lobby, demanding to see you, causing a scene. Ice flooded Naomi's veins. How did he know I was here? He's been following you. Joshua's voice was tight with controlled anger. Stay here, I'll handle this. No. Naomi stood, her heart pounding. I need to face him. I need to do this. Naomi. With you beside me, she added. But I need to face him, Joshua. I can't let him have this power over me anymore. Joshua studied her face, then nodded slowly. Together, then. But you stay behind me if things escalate. They took the elevator down to the lobby. Naomi's hands were shaking, but her resolve was firm. This ended tonight. The elevator doors opened to chaos. Oliver stood in the center of the lobby, disheveled and wild-eyed, shouting at security guards. His brown hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled like he had slept in them. He looked unhinged. The moment he saw Naomi, his expression twisted into something between rage and triumph. "There she is," he shouted. "Naomi, we need to talk." Joshua stepped in front of her immediately, his body a protective barrier. "Leave, now." "This is between me and Naomi," Oliver snarled, trying to push past security to get closer. "You don't get to keep her from me." "Actually, I do." Joshua's voice was deadly calm. The kind of quiet that was more threatening than shouting. "You have a restraining order. You're violating it by being here." "I don't care about some piece of paper." Oliver's voice was getting louder, drawing attention from hotel guests in the lobby. "Naomi, how could you do this? Leave me for him? For his money?" "I didn't leave you for anyone," Naomi said, stepping out from behind Joshua despite his protective stance. "I left you because you were killing me." Oliver's face contorted. "That's not true. I loved you. I gave you everything." "You gave me bruises and fear," Naomi said, her voice shaking but strong. "You made me believe I was worthless, that I couldn't survive without you. But you were wrong. You think you're better than me now?" Oliver took a step forward, but security blocked him. "You think he actually cares about you? He just wants to control you like I did." "No," Naomi's voice was firm. "Joshua showed me what real support looks like, what partnership looks like. You don't own me, Oliver. You never did." "The police are on their way," Joshua said quietly. His hand moved to Naomi's back, supportive but not controlling, letting her have this moment. "You don't know who you're dealing with," Oliver said to Joshua, desperation creeping into his voice. "No," Joshua replied, his tone ice cold. "You don't know who you're dealing with." As if on cue, 3 police officers entered the lobby. Joshua's connections at work. They had responded within minutes of the security call. Oliver saw them, and something in him snapped. "This isn't over, Naomi. You can't hide from me forever." He lunged toward her suddenly, breaking past one security guard. Joshua moved faster, intercepting him before he got close. The physical confrontation was brief but decisive. Joshua caught Oliver's arm, twisted it, and had him on the ground in seconds. Security and police moved in immediately, restraining Oliver as he struggled and shouted. "You're making a mistake," Oliver yelled as they pulled him toward the door. "Naomi, tell them you still love me." "I don't," Naomi said clearly. "I never want to see you again." Oliver's face crumpled, then twisted with rage. He fought against the officers holding him, but they were too strong. They read him his rights as they led him out, his voice echoing through the lobby until the doors closed behind them. Silence fell. Hotel guests were staring. Joshua's hand found Naomi's, steady and warm. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. Naomi nodded, though she was shaking. Not from fear exactly, from adrenaline, from relief, from the surreal feeling of finally standing up to the man who had terrorized her for so long. Joshua led her back to the elevator and up to his penthouse. Once inside, Naomi's legs gave out. She sank onto the couch, trembling. "He can't hurt you anymore," Joshua said, sitting beside her and pulling her close. "It's over, Naomi." "Is it?" she whispered. "What if they let him go?" "They won't." Joshua's voice was absolute. "My lawyers are already at the police station filing additional charges, violation of the restraining order, attempted assault. We have security footage of everything, and I've made some calls. They're looking into his history, and they've found previous assault charges he plea bargained down." Naomi pulled back to look at him. How did you? I told you. I have connections. Joshua's green eyes were serious. Oliver West is going to prison, Naomi. My lawyers will make sure of it. The certainty in his voice made her believe it. She leaned back into his embrace, feeling the adrenaline slowly drain away. She cried then, not from fear, but from release. Years of terror, of running, of looking over her shoulder, finally pouring out. Joshua held her through it all, one hand stroking her long black hair, murmuring reassurances. I've got you. You're safe. It's over. The next few days passed in a blur of legal proceedings. Joshua's lawyers were relentless. They compiled evidence of stalking, harassment, the restaurant incident, tonight's violation. They dug into Oliver's past and found a pattern of abuse with previous girlfriends. Oliver's bail was denied. He would stay in jail pending trial. The prosecutor is confident, Joshua told Naomi 4 days after the confrontation. With everything we've given them, Oliver is looking at serious prison time. Minimum 5 years. 5 years. The number felt impossible. Naomi had spent so long believing Oliver was invincible that he would always find her. Now he was behind bars, and she was free. Actually, truly free. That evening, she stood at the windows of Joshua's penthouse, looking out at the city lights. Joshua came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That I can breathe," Naomi said softly. "For the first time in over 2 years, I can actually breathe." She turned in his arms to face him. "Thank you. For everything. For protecting me, for believing in me, for standing beside me while I found my strength again." "You always had strength," Joshua said. "You just needed space to remember it." Naomi reached up and kissed him, pouring all her gratitude and growing love into the gesture. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "What happens now?" Naomi asked. "Now?" Joshua tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Now we live. Really live. No more looking over your shoulder. No more fear. Just life." "Just life," Naomi repeated, tasting the words. They felt like freedom. She looked out at the city again, leaning back against Joshua's solid warmth. Somewhere out there, Oliver was in a cell, finally facing consequences for his actions. And here she was, in the arms of a man who made her feel cherished and strong. The nightmare was over. Her new life was just beginning. 6 months had passed since Oliver's arrest. 6 months of breathing freely, of sleeping without nightmares, of building a life without fear. The trial had been swift. With the mountain of evidence Joshua's lawyers compiled, Oliver's public defender advised him to take a plea deal. 5 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 3 if he completed anger management and therapy programs. Naomi had attended the sentencing, sitting in the courtroom with Joshua's hand in hers. When the judge handed down the sentence, she felt a weight she had carried for years finally lift from her shoulders. Oliver was gone. Truly gone this time, eh? Her life had transformed in ways she couldn't have imagined that terrifying night in the parking lot. She was now lead server at Stella's, training new staff and managing the front of house during Helen's nights off. Her apartment felt like home. Her savings account was healthy. She had friends, stability, purpose, and she had Joshua. Their relationship had deepened over the months, growing from desperate attraction into something solid and real. He was patient with her moments of doubt, celebrated her victories, supported her dreams. He made her feel valued and cherished, without ever making her feel controlled. This was what love was supposed to feel like. Partnership, mutual respect, freedom within commitment. One late evening, they sat in his penthouse after a long day, both exhausted, but content. Naomi was curled up on the couch with a notebook, sketching ideas she had been developing for weeks. "What are you working on?" Joshua asked, settling beside her with 2 glasses of wine. Naomi looked at the pages covered in her handwriting. Dreams and plans she had barely let herself acknowledge. An idea, she said slowly. Something I've been thinking about for a while now. Tell me. So she did. The words poured out, gaining momentum as she spoke. A restaurant specifically for hiring abuse survivors, Naomi said, her voice growing passionate. A place where women and men rebuilding their lives can find not just employment, but community, real support. We'd offer culinary training, business skills, connections to counselors and legal advocates, living wages, flexible schedules, understanding when someone needs time for court dates or therapy. She looked up at Joshua, gauging his reaction. I'd call it Second Chances Cafe, because everyone deserves a second chance. I know I did. Joshua was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Keep going. It wouldn't be charity, Naomi continued. It would be a real business with real standards. Good food, excellent service, sustainable practices. But the mission would be built into everything we do. Hiring people who need opportunities, creating a safe space, showing survivors that they're capable of more than their abusers told them they were. She set down her notebook, suddenly nervous. I know it's ambitious, maybe too ambitious, but I can't stop thinking about it. About being for someone else what you were for me. Joshua was quiet for a long moment. Then he set down his wineglass and turned to face her fully. Let's do it, he said. Naomi blinked. What? Let's do it. Open Second Chances Cafe. Together. His green eyes were serious and certain. Full financial backing, business partnership. We'll do this right. Joshua, that's a huge investment. It's not charity like you said. It's a viable business with a meaningful mission. He reached for her hand. Naomi, this is brilliant. And I believe in you. I believe you can make this happen. Let me help you. Naomi's eyes filled with tears. You really think I can do this? I know you can. Joshua squeezed her hand. You've already proven you're capable of running a successful restaurant operation. You have the vision, the passion, the understanding of what the staff would need. I can provide the business expertise and funding. We'd be equal partners. Equal partners, Naomi repeated, the words feeling significant. Completely equal, Joshua confirmed. Your vision, our execution. What do you say? Naomi threw her arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, God, yes. Let's do it. The planning phase consumed the next 3 months. Joshua taught Naomi the business side she didn't know yet. Budgets and projections, vendor negotiations, licensing requirements, insurance considerations. They worked late into the night, building spreadsheets and timelines. Naomi developed the menu, drawing on her years of restaurant experience and her own culinary dreams. Comfort food elevated, dishes that felt like home. Pricing that was accessible but sustainable. She also outlined the hiring philosophy and support systems, partnerships with local organizations that helped abuse survivors, flexible scheduling policies, mental health days built into the structure, a culture of understanding and support. This is more than a business plan, Joshua said one night, reviewing her work. This is a blueprint for changing lives. That's the point, Naomi said, smiling. Finding the location took another month. They looked at dozens of spaces, but nothing felt right until they walked into a corner building in a neighborhood that was working class but safe. The space had good bones but needed serious renovation. This is it, Naomi said the moment she stepped inside. Can't you see it? Tables by those windows, kitchen in the back. The whole space warm and welcoming. Joshua looked around, seeing what she saw. It's perfect. He handled the purchase while Naomi designed the interior. She chose warm colors, comfortable seating, art from local artists. Everything about the space needed to feel safe and inclusive. The renovation took 4 months. Naomi was there almost every day, working with contractors, making decisions, watching her vision take physical form. Joshua came whenever his schedule allowed, and she loved watching him interact with the construction crew, commanding respect without demanding it. "You're amazing at this," he told her one afternoon, watching her confidently direct the installation of kitchen equipment. "You were born to lead." Naomi thought about the terrified woman who had thrown herself into his car less than a year ago. That woman could never have imagined standing here, building her own business, leading with confidence. "I had a good teacher," she said, smiling at him. The hiring process was deeply personal. Naomi interviewed every candidate herself, mostly referrals from domestic violence shelters and support organizations. She saw herself in their stories. The fear, the hope, the desperation for a fresh start. Sarah was 24, recently escaped from a controlling boyfriend who had isolated her from everyone. She had restaurant experience, but gaps in her employment history that made other places hesitate to hire her. "I just need a chance," Sarah said quietly during her interview. "I'm a hard worker. I just need someone to believe in me." "I believe in you," Naomi said. "When can you start?" There was Marcus, a 40-year-old man who had finally left his abusive wife but lost custody of his kids in the process. He needed stable employment to prove to the courts he could provide. There was Jennifer, who had been trafficked for 3 years before escaping and was trying to build a normal life. There was David, whose husband had controlled every aspect of his life until he found the courage to leave. Each story broke Naomi's heart and strengthened her resolve. This mattered. This work mattered. By the time they finished hiring, Second Chance's Cafe had a staff of 12, 8 front of house, 4 kitchen, all survivors, all deserving of the opportunity. Training began 3 weeks before opening. Naomi taught them everything she knew: kitchen skills, customer service, point-of-sale systems. But more than that, she created a culture of support. "Everyone here understands what you've been through," she told the staff on the first day of training. "We all have our stories. This is a judgment-free space. If you need time for therapy or court or just a bad day, we work together to make it happen. You're not just employees here, you're family." She saw tears in several eyes, saw the same hope she had felt when Joshua first offered to help her. Joshua came to observe training sometimes, always staying in the background. Naomi would catch him watching her with pride evident in his expression, and her heart would swell with love. Their relationship had grown stronger through this shared project. Working together toward something meaningful had deepened their bond. They were true partners now, in business and in life. One evening after training, as the staff left, Joshua pulled Naomi aside. "I'm proud of you," he said simply, "so incredibly proud." "We did this together," Naomi said. "No, I provided resources. You provided the vision, the heart, the leadership. This is your creation, Naomi. Own it." Opening day arrived with spring sunshine and nervous excitement. The cafe looked beautiful, warm and inviting, exactly as Naomi had envisioned. Local press had covered the story, intrigued by the mission-driven restaurant. The staff arrived early, dressed in the comfortable uniforms Naomi had chosen. Everyone was terrified and excited in equal measure. "We've got this," Naomi told them during the pre-service meeting. "Trust your training, trust each other, and remember why we're here. We're showing the world that survivors are strong, capable, and worthy." "Let's prove it." Joshua arrived just before opening, dressed casually, carrying flowers. "For the boss," he said, presenting them to Naomi with a kiss. "You're the boss too," Naomi reminded him. "Not today. Today this is all you." He stepped back toward a corner table. "I'll be right here if you need me, but you won't." At 11 o'clock, Naomi unlocked the door and flipped the sign to open. Customers trickled in slowly at first, then more steadily. By noon, every table was full. The food was delicious. the service warm and genuine, the atmosphere exactly what Naomi had hoped for. She moved through the dining room, checking on tables, supporting her staff, watching dreams become reality. Sarah was serving a family with confidence, smiling genuinely. Marcus was working the kitchen with focused intensity. Jennifer was at the host stand, welcoming guests with warmth that would have been impossible 6 months ago. They were all thriving, growing, becoming who they were meant to be. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. This was why she had survived. This was the purpose that had been waiting for her on the other side of fear. The day passed in a blur of activity. Every dish that went out was perfect. Every customer left happy. The staff worked together seamlessly, supporting each other through the chaos of opening day. When the last customer left at 9 o'clock, the staff gathered in the dining room, exhausted but elated. "We did it!" Sarah shouted, and everyone erupted in cheers and hugs. Naomi stood in the middle of her team, her cafe, her dream made real, and let the tears fall freely. Joshua appeared beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it," Naomi corrected. She looked around at the staff cleaning tables, laughing together, bonding over their shared success. "We actually did it." After everyone left, Naomi stood alone in the empty cafe, looking around at what she had built. The warm lighting, the art on the walls, the menu she had created, the mission that drove everything. Second chances. Cafe wasn't just a restaurant. It was proof that survival wasn't the end of the story. It was proof that pain could be transformed into purpose, that broken things could be made beautiful, that she could take the worst thing that had ever happened to her and turn it into something that helped others. Joshua waited by the door, giving her this moment. When she finally joined him, he pulled her close. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Naomi looked back at the cafe one more time, then up at the man who had helped her find her way back to herself. "Yes," she said. "Let's go home." As they walked to his car, hand in hand, Naomi felt complete. She had her purpose, her passion, her partner. She had built something meaningful from ashes. She had given herself a second chance, and in doing so, she was giving countless others the same gift. 1 year later, Naomi stood in the kitchen of Second Chance's cafe, watching the dinner rush with a sense of pride that still surprised her. The cafe had exceeded every expectation. What had started as a dream scribbled in a notebook was now a thriving business that had changed lives. The dining room was full, every table occupied. The sound of conversation and laughter drifted through the serving window. Regular customers mixed with new faces, drawn by word of mouth and glowing reviews. The food was consistently excellent, the service warm and genuine, the mission evident in everything they did. But the real success wasn't measured in profit margins or customer counts. It was measured in the transformed lives of her staff. Sarah, the nervous young woman Naomi had hired a year ago, now managed the front of house with confidence and skill. She had enrolled in community college, studying business management. Her smile was genuine now, reaching her eyes. The fear that had shadowed her during that first interview was gone. Marcus had regained partial custody of his children, the stable employment at the cafe proving to the courts he could provide. He brought his kids in sometimes on his days off, and Naomi loved watching him interact with them, patient and loving. Jennifer was thriving in the kitchen, her natural culinary talent emerging once she felt safe enough to try. She talked about applying to culinary school, dreams Naomi encouraged wholeheartedly. The staff had become a family, bonded by shared experiences and mutual support. They covered each other's shifts for therapy appointments, celebrated victories together, held space for each other's hard days. The culture Naomi had envisioned had become reality. And the cafe was profitable. Actually, genuinely profitable. They had been in the black since month 3, and growth had been steady since then. "Naomi?" Sarah appeared at her elbow. Table 7 wants to compliment the chef. They said the special was the best thing they've ever eaten. Naomi smiled. Tell them thank you, and good work tonight, Sarah. You're running the floor beautifully. Sarah beamed. I learned from the best. After Sarah left, Naomi leaned against the counter, taking a moment to absorb the scene. A year ago, she had been terrified this wouldn't work, that she wasn't capable of leading, of building something meaningful. But she had been wrong. She was capable of so much more than Oliver had ever let her believe. Looks like another successful night, a familiar voice said. Naomi turned to find Joshua leaning in the kitchen doorway, watching her with that expression that still made her heart skip. Love and pride and partnership all mixed together. We're fully booked through next month, Naomi said, and I got 3 inquiries today about franchising the model. Franchising? Joshua's eyebrows rose. That's new. Other cities want to replicate what we're doing here. Restaurants with the same mission, same hiring philosophy. Naomi felt excitement bubbling up. I know it's ambitious, but think about the impact we could have. Second chances cafes across the country, all employing survivors, all creating community. Joshua crossed to her, pulling her close. I love how you think, always dreaming bigger. Is it too much? Naomi asked, a flicker of old doubt surfacing. No. Joshua's voice was firm. It's exactly right. You've proven the model works. Why not expand it? He paused. But let's finish service first. Then we can talk about conquering the world. Naomi laughed and kissed him quickly before returning to work. The dinner service wound down around 9. After the last customers left and the staff finished cleaning, Naomi gathered everyone for the nightly debrief. Excellent work tonight, everyone, she said. Sarah, your handling of that difficult table was perfect. Marcus, the kitchen ran smoothly even when we got slammed. Jennifer, every dish that came out was beautiful. She looked around at the faces watching her. A year ago, these people had been strangers, united only by trauma. Now they were a team, a family. I'm proud of all of you, Naomi continued, not just for the work you do here, but for how far you've come. Every single one of you is proof that our past doesn't define our future. She saw several people wipe their eyes, saw the same gratitude and hope she felt reflected back at her. After everyone left, Naomi found Joshua waiting in the dining room. He had changed one of the table settings, adding candles and flowers. What's this? She asked. Dinner, Joshua said simply. For 2. I asked Jennifer to prepare something special before she left. Joshua, you didn't have to. I wanted to. He pulled out a chair for her. Sit. Let someone take care of you for once. Naomi sat, watching as Joshua brought out plates from the kitchen. The meal was beautiful and smelled incredible. They ate slowly, talking about the cafe's success, the franchising possibilities, dreams for the future. I've been thinking, Joshua said as they finished, about starting a foundation, using resources from the hotels and the cafe to support abuse survivors more broadly, funding for legal representation, temporary housing, job training programs. We could make a real difference beyond just the cafe. That's a wonderful idea, Naomi said. Her mind was already racing with possibilities. We could partner with shelters and advocacy organizations, create pathways for people to rebuild their lives. Exactly. Joshua reached across the table and took her hand. We make a good team. The best team, Naomi agreed. Joshua stood, still holding her hand. Come here. There's something I want to show you. He led her to the windows overlooking the street. The cafe's sign glowed warmly in the darkness. Second Chances Cafe, a beacon of hope. Do you remember the night we met? Joshua asked quietly. Every detail, Naomi said. I was terrified. You were a stranger. I took the biggest risk of my life climbing into your car. Best decision you ever made, Joshua said with a slight smile. Second best, Naomi corrected, squeezing his hand. Joshua turned to face her fully. his green eyes serious. "That night, I had no idea how much you would change my life. I thought I was helping you, but the truth is, you saved me too." "Joshua." "Let me finish," he said gently. "Before you, I had success but no purpose. Money and power but nothing that really mattered. You showed me what it means to turn pain into purpose, to use what we have to help others. You made me better." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Naomi's breath caught. "I love you, Naomi Smith," Joshua said, opening the box to reveal a beautiful ring, simple and elegant, exactly her style. "You're my partner in every way that matters. In business, in life, in dreams. Will you marry me?" Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. She thought about the terrified woman in that parking lot a year and a half ago. That woman could never have imagined this moment, could never have believed she deserved this kind of love. But she wasn't that woman anymore. She had rebuilt herself from ashes, found her strength, created a life and a business that mattered, learned what real love looked like. "Yes," Naomi said, her voice breaking with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." Joshua slipped the ring on her finger and pulled her into a kiss that tasted like tears and joy and promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling through happy tears. "I can't believe this is my life," Naomi said, looking at the ring on her finger, then around the cafe, then back at Joshua. "Sometimes I still can't believe it's real." "It's real," Joshua said, echoing the words he had told her that first day when he showed her the apartment. "And it's only getting better." The next few weeks passed in a blur of happiness and planning, wedding preparations mixed with business expansion discussions. Joshua's lawyers began work on the foundation, while Naomi explored franchising opportunities. The staff at Second Chance's Cafe celebrated the engagement with genuine joy. They had all watched Naomi and Joshua's relationship develop, had seen the love and respect that formed its foundation. "You deserve this," Sarah told Naomi one afternoon. "All the happiness, everything good." "So do you," Naomi said. "All of you. That's why we're here." One evening, alone in the cafe after closing, Naomi walked through the space slowly. She trailed her fingers along the tables, looked at the art on the walls, stood in the kitchen where so much transformation happened daily. This place was more than a business. It was proof that escape was possible, that healing was real, that purpose could be found in the darkest experiences. She thought about Oliver, still in prison with 3 more years on his sentence. He had tried to destroy her, to convince her she was nothing without him. But he had been wrong about everything. She was everything. Successful businesswoman, mentor, leader, partner to someone who truly loved her. Oliver had no power over her anymore, not even in memory. He was just a chapter in her story, not the whole book. Joshua appeared in the doorway, leaning against the frame. "What are you thinking about?" "How far I've come," Naomi said. "How far we've all come." She gestured around the cafe. "A year and a half ago, I was running for my life. Now I'm building something that helps others do the same. It feels like coming full circle," Joshua finished. "Exactly." Naomi crossed to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I got my second chance. Now I get to give that to others." "We get to give that to others," Joshua corrected gently. "Partners, remember?" "Partners," Naomi agreed. They stood like that for a while, holding each other in the quiet cafe. Outside, the city moved on, people living their lives. Inside, 2 people who had found each other in the darkest moment were building something bright. "Ready to go home?" Joshua asked eventually. Naomi nodded, but before they left, she took one more look around. Tomorrow the cafe would open again. Staff would arrive, carrying their stories and their strength. Customers would come, supporting the mission with their patronage. Lives would continue to change, one shift at a time. And beyond tomorrow, there were franchises to plan, a foundation to build, a wedding to prepare for, a whole future stretching ahead, full of possibility. "Let's go," Naomi said, taking Joshua's hand. They walked out together into the night, partners in every sense of the word. The cafe's sign glowed behind them. Second Chances Cafe, a testament to survival and transformation. Naomi thought about the girl she had been, the woman Oliver had tried to break, the survivor who had climbed into a stranger's car in desperate hope. That desperate hope had become this beautiful reality. She had escaped. She had healed. She had built a life that mattered. She was no longer defined by what Oliver had done to her. She was defined by what she had done for herself, by the strength she had found, by the purpose she had created, by the lives she was changing. Naomi Smith wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a thriver, a leader, a woman who had taken her pain and transformed it into something that helped others find their own strength. She was exactly who she was meant to be, and her story, the real story, was just beginning. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine. So don't go anywhere. Click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.